Can you install a ductless mini split as a DIY project? This is one of the most common questions that we get from our customers that want to install a mini split as DIY project. If you've been around on YouTube, you will see ads for online mini split products from brands such as Mr. Cool, Blue Ridge, Senville, Pioneer. You can find these products on Amazon, Home Depot, Lowe's, and other retailers. The question is, if you purchase one of these products, can you install it yourself? To answer this question, we will have to go through the steps required when installing a mini split. We will examine all the steps and skills required. From this, we can help you determine if you have the skills necessary to install the units as a DIY project. The first step is to prep the indoor unit. This is fairly straightforward. You will need to prepare the indoor wall mounts, drill the hole, and prepare the line set, electrical, and a water line. The second step is to mount the indoor unit. The third step is to prepare the electrical. If you have a 115-volt unit, you will need to get the electrical from an outlet. You will need to run the wires inside a water-tight enclosure. We typically use a liquid-tight connection into a disconnect box. From the disconnect box, you will need to run the electrical to the outdoor condenser. If you have a 220-volt system, you will need to run the electrical from the main panel. The electrical wires will need to be inside an EMT conduit. We would not recommend doing this yourself unless you are an electrician. 220 volts can be very dangerous, so be careful. The fourth step is to place the condenser unit on the pad and brace it. The fifth step is to complete the line set connection, water drain connection, electrical wiring from the indoor to the outdoor unit. As a contractor, we brace all of the electrical connections to prevent leaking of the refrigerant. Since brazing is an advanced skill that takes about 6 months to learn, not all contractors braze their line sets. Many contractors use a flare nut to connect the copper. This is acceptable, but the refrigerant will leak out over time, and every few years you will need to recharge the refrigerant, which can become expensive over time. When you connect the electrical wiring, you will need to make sure that all the wires are connected correctly based on the installation guides. If you mess this step up, you risk the probability of damaging the circuit board. So always double check the wiring diagrams and make sure that you have these things done correctly. Once the electrical lines, refrigerant lines, and wire lines are completed, it is time to commission the units. Depending upon the unit that you purchase, you may be instructed to test the copper line set for leak. We typically use a nitrogen test with a special pump. There are special equipments for testing the leaks as well as equipment for measuring the refrigerant levels. Once you have determined that there are no leaks, you will need to release the refrigerant into the system. The next step is to turn on the power to the disconnect box and test the unit. If you are successful, your unit should be able to work. If it is not working, you will need to investigate the error code and check that you have electricity to the units. Now that you have examined the steps necessary to install a mini split, we can categorize the skills needed. The three most difficult skills are number 1, electrical, number 2, brazing the line sets, and number 3, commissioning the unit. Electrical can be difficult and dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. We recommend having a professional do this step. Brazing the line set requires special equipment and skill, so the average homeowner will not be able to do this. If you flare your connections, you will need to be aware that you will need to recharge your refrigerant every couple of years. And finally, commission requires following the installation instructions carefully. This is similar to setting up a PC or diagnosing a car. If you have experience with electronics and computers, you may be able to do this step yourself. So in conclusion, is it possible to DIY your mini split installation? The answer is maybe. It really depends on how handy you are and how much construction experience you have. If you are a car mechanic, an electrician, plumber, or engineer, you should be able to DIY your installation. If you are not handy yourself and cannot fix your car, then you might want to find a contractor that can help you install the mini splits. If you plan on buying a unit online, be sure to find a qualified installer first. You don't want to be stuck with a unit that you cannot install yourself. The videos you see online make it look easy to install. However, the reality is that it is a lot of work. If you are considering DIY routes, also look at the value of your time. A well-trained professional installer will take about 4 hours to install one mini split. As a first-time DIYer, we expect you to take around 20 hours to complete the project. This includes doing all the research for the project, buying all the materials, watching tutorial videos on how to do the installation, and doing the actual work. As a rule of thumb, if you earn more than $30 an hour, it will make more financial sense to hire a professional installer.